Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Schaub. I'm a lieutenant with the San Jose Police Department. I'm going to go over just kind of real briefly, a quick little introduction about myself, and then a kind of a current climate with the police department, where we stand in terms of staffing, where we stand in terms of crime trends, what we're trying to do to combat some of those crime trends, and then I'll open it up to some questioning, and my counterpart will talk a little bit later after I'm done. These are the questions, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to do a quick little introduction because I think it's appropriate for where we're at. So I'm a San Jose native, born and raised. I've been on the department about 20 years now. I grew up probably about 2 miles from here in District 5. I went to school at San Antonio Elementary. I went to high school at Independence. So I am truly a San Jose native. I love this place. This is where my heart is. So when I talk about the problems that we're facing, please understand that I really do view them as my problems as well. This is my neighborhood, my community as well, and when we attack these problems together, that's where we're going to solve them, okay? So, a real brief overview of where the department stands right now in terms of staffing. If we go back a couple years, I'm sure we all heard the news stories about, staffing being really low, academies only being in the single digits. Some pretty dark times in the department. I can tell you staffing is still a challenge, but we are growing leaps and bounds above where we were a couple years ago. We are not out of the woods yet by any stretch of the imagination, but we are making good headway to get out of there. We're right now, I want to say about 500 sworn officers in the patrol structure, which is fantastic. We're getting pretty close to that 900 mark for the entire department as a whole. And we're seeing academy sizes of between 50 and 60 twice a year, which is, we've never seen academy sizes like that. When I got hired 20 years ago, it was 60 in the academy one time a year. So we've doubled what we were doing back then. So it's absolutely great progress. I want to talk, and I apologize if I'm going too fast. If I am, yell at me to slow down. I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch, and I want to open it up to questions for you guys at the end. Crime trends specific really to this neighborhood, to Evergreen, to the Foothill Division. What we're seeing is obviously, we all know this, burglaries are a huge problem. Property crimes are a huge problem in this area, and we're starting to see some really good headway in what we're able to do to combat some of those burglaries. There was a group that was called the Ghost Town Crew. They were out of the East Bay, Oakland, Richmond, some from San Francisco, that were coming down here. You might have seen it on the news. They were targeting vehicle burglaries all over the city of San Jose, but really hitting East Side San Jose pretty hard. We worked in conjunction with Alameda County, Fremont Police Department, and a couple other agencies to identify a lot of these crews. And we ended up, over about the course of about a 3-month investigation, we arrested 9 fences, 10 prolific burglars. And what we ended up doing at the end of it, within 2 weeks, we saw an 85% decrease in burglaries, vehicle burglaries in San Jose because of all these efforts.
Excuse me, are they still in jail?
They are still in jail, yes. Not to toot our own horn, but Alameda County deferred prosecution, and so that we could do the prosecution here in Santa Clara County, because we'll hold them a little bit more accountable in this county than they would have otherwise. So. Another complaint I see a lot, and I hear a lot from community members, is the prostitution problem that we're seeing in San Jose. Not only down there on Monterey Road, but also up and down Allen Rock, and a lot of these brothels that are kind of acting as massage parlors. Our vice unit has just got ramped back up again. They were kind of down for a little while where we didn't have any staffing for it. They've made, I want to say, a dozen cases where they've shut down brothels and massage parlors up and down Allen Rock, to include another one. There was a bar, Las Micheladas, over at King and Story, which was having a lot of problems with prostitution and illegal dancing and all kinds of other stuff. They did some undercover operations down there, and they were able to shut that place down. And so we're making a lot of headway with those types of cases. Now, all that being said, we're not where we need to be yet. We're not where we want to be yet. We're still working towards it. What we need, though, is continued community engagement, involvement, right? We have to have you folks as our eyes and our ears. We need you to be looking out, to be vigilant, to know your neighbors, to know what's going on in your neighborhood, to know what belongs and what doesn't, and to not be afraid to call 911 or 311 when it's appropriate to get us out there. I I will preface that and caution you that I understand that the frustration is sometimes we sit on 311 especially, and sometimes even 911 for extended period of wait time on the phone. We are still very, very busy. I hope that you can just find the time, and I know it's frustrating, to wait and so that you can make that report. Because the way that we deploy our officers, the way that we deploy our crime strategy is based on where we're seeing crime trends. The only way we know where we're seeing crime trends is if we report them, right? And if we have good eyes and ears as witnesses telling us who to be looking out for and what's going on in the neighborhoods. Okay? One other thing I'd like to add is I'm here on behalf of Captain Randy Schriefer, who apologizes for not being able to make it tonight. He's the captain for the Foothill Division, but he wanted me to express to you that this is a very, very important area for him. He understands the challenges that are happening out here. He's actually just gotten the approval and made the decision to relocate a community policing officer just to this area, just to District 5, and specifically up and down the Alum Rock corridor to try and identify and work on some of the problems that we're having here. The vagrancy and some of the other things that we're seeing. So there's going to be an officer that gets dedicated solely to working community policing problems up and down the Alum Rock corridor. That's probably going to take place in the next week or two. So he wanted me to convey that to you folks.
You'll be dedicated to doing what? I'm sorry.
Community policing efforts. So getting out on foot, talking to business owners, talking to the residents, trying to figure out where the problems are and coming up with strategies
Are you going to know
attack those.
where his location is going to be within District 5, or will it
Well,
be random?
he's going to be assigned within the Foothill Division. So the Foothill Division is really everything from 101 all the way up to the foothills and probably Capitol Expressway and Center area all the way out to Milpitas. That's all of Foothill Division. But this officer is going to be relegated, his duties are going to be specifically focused up in the Alum Rock corridor from 101 up to the foothills.
Okay, he's already been assigned.
He has not been assigned yet. We're hoping to see him within the next couple of weeks.
So-
The other thing, I'm sorry, the other thing I wanted to mention is, this has been a big push for a lot of the community for a long time, is to get our assignments from a 6-month shift change to a full year shift change. We're starting to see that implementation now. We've started the first phase of it already 6 months ago. We're starting the second, and then the final phase will be within about a year to 2 years, I believe. So the officers that you're going to be seeing, hopefully, are going to be there for a little bit longer, which means hopefully they're going to be able to be a little bit more in tune with some of the
Right.
problems that are in the neighborhood.
Why not make it 2 or 3 years?
Baby steps. Baby steps. We're working there. It was a lot to get from 6 months to a year. So what do
So
I
is
think?
that? Does
Uh,
police officers get bored of their beat or something?
Well, you know, I think there's probably a lot of factors to it. Seniority has to do with it. Sometimes you want to be able to work different shifts, different days off. And so if you get relegated too long to one area, then you don't get the opportunity to have holidays off. You don't get the ability to have weekends off. You know, it's tough when you're missing birthdays and parties and holidays, so that they try and give you a little bit more. And the other part of it too, the flip side of that is sometimes it's nice to get a fresh face in there with a fresh perspective and fresh vigor to kind of get in there and work the problem. So there's both sides to it. I do believe the 1 year shift change is a better
Is East Side
better
a
option.
difficult beat for the officers?
Is it?
East Side versus West?
I would say it's the best beat if you're an officer. It's where
Depends where-
I've worked the Foothill Division the vast majority of my career on patrol. I absolutely love it. I mean, it's my home,
So we
but
need you to ask more people to do it.
absolutely, absolutely. Go ahead, sir.
What happened to the substations they used to have around here?
So the community policing centers. So we had a community policing center that was at King and Story back in the plaza there years and years ago. That got shut down. They started to bring a couple other ones up, and then staffing became an issue. So we just weren't able to staff them.
But the quick stuff right here, the next block over, they used to have like 2 or 3 there all the time. And they used to have some not too far from here also, that, you know, for any calls that came in, they're within blocks away.
Where they were stationed, not like a community policing center, but just kind of out and about.
Yeah, and the quick
visible.
stops, they had a room in the back and they would hang out there, you know.
Yeah.
For all these guys stealing beer from the stores and all this.
Yeah, and I do think you'll see that come back. It's just going to take time. We're still really working through the staffing issues. You know, back when I got hired, we were at 1450 sworn. We really should have been about 2,000. There was a push by the then chief, Rob Davis, to push us up to like 2,400, which is really where we should be, in my opinion, when you look at per capita nationwide staffing, and we're under 1,000 still. So we still got some work to do to get back to those numbers before you can start seeing that. But that's why I say, like I said earlier, we need your help to be our eyes and ears, to be, the people that are out there watching it and seeing it, so we know where to respond.
Well, I've been asking questions, and I see some police officers, and I go, hey, what happened? I don't see any police officers around here hardly anymore. I go from here to Monterey Road every day, and you know how you're always looking to make sure you're
Yeah.
not speeding or whatever? I'd be lucky to see one maybe every 2 days. And I heard that they're hanging out there by Willow Glen area because they don't like it over here anymore.
I can guarantee that's not true. I can guarantee that's not true. The officers in the department they all have assignments, beat assignments. They don't leave their divisions with beats. If it's during the swing shift type hours, I would likely suspect that they're at calls for service. The swing shift officers are very busy with calls. Yes, sir.
Yes, are you taking advantage of technology? Mainly if you hear about everybody enforcing their homes with cameras. How about the city doing that? I think to help you guys out, you're asking, for the public to look out. How about use technology?
Absolutely. I think that's a great call, and we are. We're employing technology in a lot of different ways. We've got a police command center at the department that we built out a couple years ago that's doing a lot of social media monitoring for like the racer details and all the sideshows that are happening, right? So we're monitoring social media so that we can forecast where these events are going to happen and get officers out there in front of it to stop them. That's been super successful. We're leveraging camera systems from all over the place, not only just ones that the city's buying, but also ones that communities are buying, shopping centers are buying. We're doing a project right now with Sunset Plaza down there off Poco and Story, where we're using their cameras and they're getting access to the officers so that we can monitor the crime that's happening out there. So we're absolutely doing it.
So that would be also working with the city council to provide cameras for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. The city created a program a couple years ago where they have a database where you can go into and log in and register your cameras as a citizen, as a resident, so that we as police officers, if we have a crime in that area, we can go into this database and say, okay, this house, and this house, they all have cameras that are registered, and they've already said they're willing to give us access to it so we can get footage for prosecution. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Maybe it was in the past when home surveillance cameras weren't very effective to helping you guys.
Yeah.
If I capture a bad guy online, it's like, well, can't do much with that.
Yeah.
What's the case now?
Its technology is blown up. It's awesome now.
But I mean, if I were to give you a still, you facial recognize it, or I don't know.
Well,
what-
no, I don't know that.
What happens?
It very well, it all depends, right? So if you show me that picture, there's a very small chance that I'm gonna recognize that bad guy, right? But
Small.
but possible, right? But what it does allow us to do is allows us to put that on what we call a track flyer, right? Which we send out to all the officers that work in the area, say, because now I'm pushing that out to, 1,000 officers, our chances are a whole lot better that someone's gonna recognize them.
So that happens.
That happens, absolutely happens. And sometimes if it's serious enough, we'll push it out to the media as well. So that if you have images, video surveillance, of crimes that have occurred in your neighborhood, absolutely get a hold of us and let us know so we can collect that evidence.
Can I add something just real
Yeah.
quick? One of the issues though that we are having with the collecting of the data is that a lot of us don't know how to get the data from our cameras to the officers. So, if you have those cameras at home, do a practice test, have an extra CD or USB so that you could download those images. So, I don't want this to happen, but if your home does get burglarized, the first thing we ask is, do you have footage? And what ends up happening a lot of times is that they'll like, well, I don't know how to get it. Or I gotta call my alarm company.
Yeah.
Or my son knows how to do it.
Yeah.
And so practice yourself and be knowledgeable how to take down that footage to give to the officer if it does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Great call. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Do we have shot spotters here on the east side?
We don't have shot spotters here. We don't employ that technology here. We do have the ability to, if a case needs it, warrants it, where we can get mobile shot spotters that we can get from our federal partners and deploy those regionally. We did that with the Blossom Hill shooter, and it proved fairly effective, where we were able to figure that out. But we don't have permanent shot spotters in place right now.
What is it, shot spotter?
Shot spotter is a technology that's typically mounted to light poles or wherever they mount it, and it detects gunshots.
Oh.
And it can tell the difference between a gunshot and fireworks, and it immediately generates a call for service for the officers to respond. And it basically will triangulate it to, and I don't know how good their technology is these days, but they can triangulate it to a general geographic area that's probably, a quarter mile wide, and say that there was 3 to 4 gunshots in this area, and then you respond. Oakland, East Bay, they employ it quite a bit.
And then my second question was, I live right here, and there's helicopters over my house every single night, which doesn't make for good sleep
I bet,
problems.
I bet.
Is there a place where I can see if it's the San Jose Police over my house, or if it's just yet another helicopter stacked up to get to the hospital?
No, unfortunately,
Is it
there's
dark? I
no
can't
way.
tell apart.
And because it's not just our helicopters, it's San Jose Police Department, Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office. We employ the CHP helicopter quite a bit.
Right.
East Bay Regional, we're about to purchase a second helicopter, so it could be.
Well, I can walk, apparently I can walk.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess to follow up is why don't we have shot spotter? Is it the cost?
You know what, I to be honest, and I'm not gonna lead you astray, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if it's ever been looked at by the department. I would tell you that if it were, if it's me, I would much rather have the community calling in than technology calling in, because while that technology is good, it's very singular in that it's only going to tell you that there was a gunshot versus someone being able to say, I heard gunshots, I heard tires screeching, I heard the vehicle leaving this way, or I saw the vehicle leaving this way.
Well, the issue is I live in this area and next to the light rail, and I do hear stuff, and it sounds like gunfire.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's at, and it's fairly frequent. So I can't tell if it's, we also have a lot of fireworks too.
Have you called it in when you heard it?
No.
So that's why I would encourage you to call it in. And if you think that there's a chance that it's gunfire, call it in. And that's what we need, because if we get 3 or 4 different calls, that'll help us triangulate where it's at. And we also have not only just, the ears of the shot spotter, but we have, your guys' eyes. And you know your neighborhoods, you know it doesn't belong. You might see the vehicle taking off at a high rate of speed, and that helps us.
Well, usually I'm in bed, and it's like 2 a.m., so it's hard for me to.
I know, it's tough. I absolutely get it. But that's where the partnership has to happen. Yes, sir.
I would like to let everybody know, because you guys told us about 6 years ago, if an officer doesn't respond, dispatch puts it up on the board, and that's what he's saying. They get to know this area on Friday nights or Saturday at 2 in the morning. There's problems out here, and they will dispatch people to look for these problems, even though you feel you didn't get a response from the police.
Well,
There is a
no.
response, but it's up on the board. They do a priority, but they get to know that, there's a cluster of gunshots over here, and they get to know this stuff.
And technology is great, but there's no substitute for the human element of it, right?
So
Yes, ma'am.
I was, thinking about it, and maybe it's impossible. I was on a walk, whatever, downtown San Jose, women, whatever, we walked for. And right downtown Santa Clara,
Mhm.
so you have all those streets coming in, and there were community officers there with the car parked here and there. And to me, luckily we don't have anything bad, but I'm sure there's some crazy people in here. For things like that, we should just have police cars, whatever, parked, so no car can go drive through into the masses. Do you know what I'm talking about?
When we have large gatherings?
Well, yeah, we marched down Santa Clara and whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the women's march.
That's number one, and number two, when I thought, we have San Jose Kaya is coming up in September. I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but that's also, no cars, but something different.
Well, it's an absolute huge concern. It's something that I'm working on personally. One of my collateral duties is I manage security at the SAP Center, and so we've had big events there. We just had the first 2 rounds, and so we employed dump trucks to try and block off the streets, to try and
Well, they
mitigate
didn't in
against.
those march, and now for in September, maybe they can just put police cars in there. Tell the guy to come home, and come back in the evening and pick it up, or he or she doesn't have to be by the car. But just park them there so people can, maybe, I just think.
I think it's a great idea.
Well, at least
I happen to
it's
know,
still happening.
I happen to know the lieutenant that runs those marches, so I'll absolutely push that out to him. I think it's a great idea.
Sandra, were you going to present information too, or?
Yeah, just real quick,
I don't
like,
want to run out of time.
National Night Out is coming up. It's, the registry's open. You can register online, at the SJ, oh, sorry. On camera. Okay, National Night Out is coming up. It's the first Tuesday of August. And National Night Out is basically to go outside, meet your neighbors, and then as well as police, fire, city council, if you choose to, will show up and attend your events. Some of the events that we do have are potlucks. Trudy does an awesome job with Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Association. They have a whole little shebang going on. They have like a little carnival, a mini carnival. But it's for neighbors to actually turn on their lights and turn off crime and basically get to know your neighbors again, because a lot of us do not know who our neighbors are. And so it's coming up. You register online at the SJPD website, .org, and you could, just go on there and sign up. Your organization can sign up, or you could just your block. And as well as we are working with the neighbors on Allen Rock, all the businesses on Allen Rock. We actually did a business watch. I'm going to repeat it again, and we are working with the property owners and Quick Stop. So there's someone here talking about Quick Stop. We're working with Quick Stop to actually deter the crime that's in this little area, because we know. And I don't know if you guys noticed also too, there was a home that we were having issues with off of White Road. Along with James Lick, vice principal, we were able to shut down. It was an illegal like housing home for mentally challenged people. So it was illegal, and they closed it down, and now they're selling it. So that's another, pro.
Do we still have to go to Leininger or whatever center to pay $35 or $40 and all that stuff? Or
No, unless you're gonna have close the are you talking about for the National Night Out?
Yeah.
Okay, there's certain things that, there's some things that you will have to pay for, like if you're gonna block the street.
No. Last year I don't think we had to pay.
Okay.
It constantly changes, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, there shouldn't be any pay. I know that if you're gonna, there's all kinds of rules and regulations, but we do have the pamphlet. I didn't bring it, I apologize. We do have a pamphlet that goes over all the rules, who to contact if you're gonna close the street, who to contact if you're gonna be serving food, who to contact. It does tell you on that, or actually on our website too as well. Yeah, it will tell you what you can and cannot do. Okay, but there's no fee to have that.
But you do want to register though, because the only way that we're going to know as a department and as, the city organizations that you're having something that we can go to is if you register.
We have pictures of your comrades.
All
Yes.
right.
Okay. But back to I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit over road, but the business watch we just had a couple weeks ago, we had a business watch from 101 all the way up to the Mexican Heritage Plaza. So we had 28 business owners who actually attended, who, they were interested in business watch is a little bit different. It's for business owners to, learn the difference between 311, 911, learn the difference of how they can make their businesses safer and more prosperous. So that was what the business watch was about, and also for them to start reporting crime, because some of these businesses, you're saying, some of you guys live along this corridor, and the businesses work hand in hand with the neighbors too as well. So just those are a little bit of the pros, a lot of wins we've had on our part for the police department. And the Quick Stop, like I said, we're still working on it, and hopefully we see some positive changes coming that way.